The wind howled across the frozen plains of Carrion 9, carrying tiny shards of ice that stung the skin like needles. The alien child stumbled over the uneven terrain, its small, fragile body barely keeping balance in the relentless blizzard. Each step was an effort, each breath a struggle, as if the cold itself were trying to crush the life from it. Its wide, reflective eyes darted around nervously, scanning the endless white emptiness for anything familiar. There was none, only the cold, the ice, and the silence. The child's species was not built for this planet. Its thin limbs shivered uncontrollably, and its soft, pale skin, usually resilient in temperate climates, had begun turning blue at the extremities. It had been abandoned here, left by a group of adults who could not survive the harsh conditions themselves, or perhaps they had simply given up on it. Either way, the child's tiny body carried the marks of frostbite, and a quiet despair weighed down its spirit. It had learned long ago to hide its fear. There was no one to cry to, no one to protect it. The storm was the only companion, and it was merciless. Far above the icy plains, a small human ship glided silently through the clouds of frozen gas that made the planet's upper atmosphere shimmer. Inside, Lieutenant Mara Jensen, a human medic, monitored her instruments closely. She had been dispatched to Carrion 9 on a reconnaissance and rescue mission, scanning for signs of life after reports of missing alien settlers. Her ship sensors were sophisticated, capable of detecting the faintest heat signatures across vast distances. "Wait," Mara murmured, leaning closer to the screen. Her breath fogged in the cabin as she adjusted the readings. "That's alive?" The signal was faint, barely distinguishable from the natural warmth of the planet itself, but it was definitely biological. A single life form, tiny, isolated, and struggling against impossible odds. Her heart tightened. She had seen humans struggle in extreme environments, but alien physiology was unpredictable. One wrong move here could mean death for the creature. "Hang on, little one," she whispered, switching the ship into descent mode. "I'm coming." The ship shuddered as it entered the upper atmosphere, piercing clouds of ice that tore at its hull. Below, the frozen landscape stretched endlessly, jagged mountains and frozen rivers forming a maze of danger. Visibility was low, but Mara's sensors guided her precisely. The blizzard below swirled with a ferocity that could freeze an unprotected adult in minutes. And yet, through the storm, a small flicker of life persisted. The child's ears twitched at the sound of distant rumbling. It was not part of the storm, though the wind masked it well. Something large was approaching, moving with purpose across the frozen plains. The child froze, eyes wide in fear. It had survived storms and predators alike, but humans, creatures it had only heard about in whispered tales from older aliens, were unpredictable. Some were said to be saviors, others hunters. It did not know which this one would be. Mara's ship finally broke through the last cloud layer, hovering just above the surface. The engines hummed softly against the roar of the storm. With a practiced hand, she deployed the landing stabilizers and began the careful descent. Each footfall could create a snowdrift, burying the fragile life she sought to save. The child crouched low, body pressed against the ice, hoping not to be seen. Its sharp eyes caught the glint of metal descending from above. A shadow passed over the snow, and for the first time in days, a pulse of hope flickered in its chest. It did not understand why it felt this hope. It had been abandoned, left to die in this frozen wasteland, but the presence of the strange being above stirred something unfamiliar. Mara exited the ship, her suit insulated against the freezing winds. Her steps were careful, calculated. She could see the small heat signature on her scanner, wavering with each gust of snow. She spoke softly, more to herself than to the child. "You're stronger than I thought," she said. "Hang on. I'll get you out of this." The child's body trembled as the human approached. Its instincts screamed to run, to hide, to protect itself from potential danger. Yet something in the human's calm movements, the careful way it extended a hand, suggested safety. Mara knelt, lowering herself closer to the ground, her eyes locking on the child's. "Hello," she said gently, her voice muffled by the helmet but still soothing. "I'm not going to hurt you. I promise." The alien's ears flicked back nervously. It did not move, did not respond, only stared. Mara slowly unhooked a small thermal blanket from her pack, allowing it to drift toward the child in the wind. The warmth was subtle but noticeable. The child's shivering slowed for a heartbeat. Could it trust this creature? Could it allow itself to hope for rescue after so long? Mara sensed the hesitation. "It's okay," she said softly. "I've got you. Just a little closer. You're safe now." The child inched forward, compelled by the warmth, by the voice, by the very presence of another being willing to risk the cold for it. It crawled a few feet, then stopped, unsure if it could take another step. Mara extended her hand. Closer this time, and the child hesitated, then placed a tiny, trembling paw into her glove. Relief flooded through Mara. "That's it. That's good." She carefully lifted the child, wrapping the thermal blanket around it completely. She could feel the fragile life form trembling against her, its body cold and weak. Yet there was a spark of strength, a will to survive that she immediately respected. Back in the ship, Mara worked quickly, placing the child on a heated medical bed. Sensors attached to its small body showed severe frostbite and hypothermia, but nothing irreversible. The alien whimpered softly, the sound barely audible over the storm outside, but it relaxed slightly under the warmth of the blankets and the gentle hands of the human medic. "You're going to be okay," Mara said. "Just a little longer, and you'll be safe." As the ship lifted off, the storm outside remained relentless, but inside, warmth and safety surrounded the child for the first time in what felt like an eternity. It stared at Mara with wide, curious eyes, unsure whether to trust, yet unable to look away. The human smiled softly, understanding the silent communication. It was fear, yes, but also recognition. Recognition that not all beings abandoned it, that some would care. Hours passed as Mara monitored the alien's vitals, stabilizing its temperature and administering nutrients and fluids suitable for its species. Communication was slow. The child had not learned human language, and Mara's knowledge of alien dialects was limited. Still, gestures, gentle tones, and calm presence bridged the gap more effectively than words ever could. By the time the planet receded from view, the child's body had stopped trembling violently. Its breathing grew steady, and it began to blink less frantically. Trust, though tentative, had begun to form. It realized, perhaps for the first time, that it had not been forgotten. That someone had come for it when everyone else had turned away. Mara watched the small creature closely. She had rescued many beings, human and alien alike, but there was something about this one. The fragility, combined with the unmistakable spark of determination, that made her heart tighten. "You're stronger than you know," she murmured, "and I'll make sure you get the chance to show it." For the first time in days, the alien closed its eyes. Not from exhaustion, but from a fragile sense of safety. Outside, the storm still raged, a reminder of the dangers that existed beyond the ship. Inside, however, warmth and care created a sanctuary. For the alien, it was more than just survival, it was the beginning of hope. Mara leaned back in her chair, hands still hovering over the controls and monitors, ready to respond to any threat. The galaxy could be cruel and cold, but she knew one thing. Humanity had a way of reaching out, of finding the life worth saving, even in the harshest conditions. And for this frostbitten alien orphan, that human reach meant everything. Hours turned into night in the ship's internal clocks, but the alien slept soundly for the first time, its body mending, its spirit slowly healing. Outside, Carrion 9 remained a frozen wasteland. But inside the human medic's care, warmth, compassion, and humanity created a beacon of hope strong enough to defy the cold and the dark. And Mara Jensen knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had many challenges, but she also knew that the smallest, weakest life could reveal the strength of the human spirit. She watched over the alien child, prepared for the journey ahead, ready to prove once again that when humans acted, they did not just survive. They uplifted, they healed, and they inspired. The ship moved steadily through the frozen sky above Carrion 9, but the storm outside had not lessened. Mara kept the vessel's shields active, pushing against the sharp gusts that threatened to buffet the hull. Inside, the alien child rested on the heated medical bed. Its small body still weak, though far more stable than hours ago. Its eyes, once filled with fear, now followed Mara's every movement, watching her adjust instruments, check systems, and prepare the ship for the journey back to the research station. Mara worked quietly, mindful not to startle the child. She adjusted the thermal blankets, carefully monitoring temperature and vitals. The sensors beeped steadily, showing improvement, but she knew the environment outside had been merciless. Every second spent on the frozen surface had brought the child closer to death. Now, in the warmth of the ship, it had a chance to survive, a chance to grow, and maybe even a chance to trust again. The alien stirred, shifting slightly under the blanket. Its thin, trembling limbs moved with the cautious precision of one who had learned the danger of every motion. Mara crouched beside the bed, speaking softly. "You're safe now. Nothing out there can hurt you while I'm here." She smiled gently, reaching out a gloved hand to brush a stray tuft of fur from its forehead. The child flinched, but only for a moment, then relaxed, letting Mara's touch soothe its trembling. Curiosity began to flicker in the alien's eyes. It studied Mara with cautious interest, noticing the soft hum of the ship's engines, the warmth that seemed to radiate from every surface, and the calm steadiness of the human's voice. It had survived storms, predators, and starvation, but no one had ever shown it care like this. The alien's small chest rose and fell steadily, its breaths no longer shallow and frantic. It was safe, for now, and the strange, protective presence of the human beside it was becoming something familiar. Mara took a deep breath and began preparing a nutrient solution. She had researched the alien species and knew its diet well enough to provide nourishment without harming its delicate system. She offered the liquid in a small, shallow cup. The alien hesitated, instinctively wary of anything new. Mara kept her hand steady, showing no impatience. "It's okay," she said softly. "Just a sip. You need your strength." Slowly, carefully, the alien touched its tiny lips to the solution. It was cold at first, but as warmth spread through its body, it began to drink more confidently. Mara smiled quietly. Progress was small, but it was progress. Hours passed, and outside the storm raged on. Mara kept the ship on course, navigating through treacherous ice clouds and monitoring for any signs of danger. Carrion 9 was not just a frozen wasteland. It was home to predators adapted to the extreme cold, creatures that could detect warmth from miles away. Mara knew that even a small lapse in shielding or attention could be deadly. She had faced dangerous conditions before, but this mission carried a deeper responsibility. She was not only protecting the alien child's life, she was also demonstrating what humanity could achieve through courage, intelligence, and care. As the ship glided past jagged ice cliffs and frozen rivers, the alien began to move more freely. It explored the small space around the bed, tentatively touching instruments and panels, fascinated by the humming lights and shifting screens. Mara watched it with interest, noting how quickly it adapted despite its weak condition. "You're smarter than you look," she said, smiling. The alien paused, as if understanding the words, then returned to examining the environment with renewed curiosity. The calm, however, did not last long. A sudden tremor shook the ship, followed by an alarm blinking red on the console. Mara's heart skipped a beat. She rushed to the controls, scanning for the source. The sensors indicated a meteor storm forming along their flight path, a cluster of icy debris propelled by the planet's thin atmosphere. The fragments were small, but at high velocity, they could puncture the hull or damage vital systems. Mara's voice became firm, precise. "Hold on. This might get rough." She adjusted the shields and redirected power to the engines, maneuvering the ship through the cluster. The alien child shrank back under the blankets, eyes wide with fear. Mara reached out, holding its tiny hand. "It's okay," she said. "I've got you. Just stay with me." The reassurance in her voice seemed to calm the alien, though its body remained tense. The storm lasted longer than expected, testing Mara's skills and endurance. She navigated with precision, ducking under larger debris and using the ship's shields to deflect smaller fragments. The alien watched silently, its fear mixed with awe. In that moment, it saw the human strength, not the raw power of muscles, but the strength of mind, courage, and quick decision-making. Mara adjusted shields and engines again and again, never losing focus, always protecting the fragile life she had saved. Finally, the last of the meteor fragments passed, and the ship returned to a steady course. The alien exhaled audibly, relaxing slightly. Mara checked the child's vitals and smiled with relief. "See? Nothing we couldn't handle," she said. The alien blinked slowly, as if processing the reality that it had survived yet another danger with the human beside it. The hours dragged on, and Mara continued to care for the alien. She prepared a more substantial meal, teaching the child to eat safely under her supervision. She noticed small gestures of trust, how the alien no longer flinched when she touched it, how it began responding to her soft words, and how it followed her movements with growing confidence. The bond between them deepened with every careful action, every shared moment of survival. As night fell, or what passed for night on a planet where storms blurred all sense of time, Mara allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The galaxy was vast and often unforgiving, but she saw in this small life form a testament to resilience. The alien had endured abandonment, freezing temperatures, and hunger. Yet it still clung to life. And now, through humanity's intervention, it had a chance to thrive. The alien stirred, its small hands reaching out to touch Mara's glove. The gesture was simple, but its meaning was profound. It was trust, acceptance, and a tentative bond forming where fear had once reigned. Mara's heart tightened. She knelt beside the bed, speaking gently. "You're safe now. I promise. Nothing will hurt you while I'm here." The alien responded with a soft sound, a whisper of acknowledgement. It was not words, but it was enough. Mara checked the ship's navigation one more time. The research station was still hours away, and the frozen planet below was unrelenting. There would be challenges ahead, system malfunctions, environmental hazards, and perhaps even alien predators drawn to the warmth of the ship, but Mara was ready. She had trained for this, prepared for emergencies, and above all, she had the determination to protect this fragile life. Humanity had a way of turning impossible situations into survival stories, and she intended to prove it once again. The alien slept fitfully through the night, its small body resting under the warmth of the blankets. Mara watched over it, adjusting temperature controls and monitoring vitals, ensuring that the child remained stable. Outside, the storm continued unabated. But inside, the ship was a sanctuary. It was proof that care, intelligence, and courage could create safety even in the harshest conditions. By morning, the alien's strength had improved noticeably. It moved with more confidence, its curiosity more apparent. It explored the ship in small, deliberate steps, pausing to examine every panel, every light, every control. Mara allowed it to explore under supervision, teaching small lessons in safety and observation. She noticed that the child had an impressive ability to learn, quickly understanding which instruments were dangerous and which could be touched freely. Mara smiled, impressed. "You're going to do well," she said. "I can already see it." The alien paused, tilting its head, and looked at her with bright, reflective eyes. There was a spark there, a spark of intelligence, resilience, and perhaps even courage that had been buried under fear and cold. Mara's heart swelled. Humanity had a way of nurturing potential, of lifting life from the brink of despair, and she had just begun to witness it firsthand. Suddenly, a new alert flashed on the console. Mara froze for a moment, scanning the data carefully. A thermal reading indicated movement outside the ship, large and potentially dangerous. Her hand hovered over the controls, ready to respond. The alien noticed her tense posture and instinctively moved closer, seeking the protection it had begun to trust. Mara's voice was calm but firm. "Stay close. We might have company." Through the sensors, Mara saw a pack of predator creatures adapted to the frozen climate, moving swiftly across the surface, drawn by the warmth of the ship. They were fast, strong, and intelligent. But Mara was faster, smarter, and prepared. She adjusted shields and maneuvered the ship, keeping the predators at bay while maintaining course to the research station. The alien watched silently, awe and trust mingling in its gaze. Humanity's strength was not in brute force alone, but in cleverness, courage, and the unyielding desire to protect. Hours later, the danger passed, and the ship continued on its journey. Mara looked at the alien, noticing the small smile forming on its face. It had learned, even in these short hours, that humans could be protectors, healers, and allies. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged through shared danger, care, and survival. The storm outside Carrion 9 still raged, but inside, warmth, trust, and hope flourished. Mara leaned back, monitoring both the ship and the child, knowing that the next leg of their journey would test them even further. Yet, she felt confident. Humanity had a way of facing the impossible and emerging victorious, and she would prove it, not just for herself, but for the fragile alien life that now depended on her. The ship cruised steadily through the upper atmosphere of Carrion 9, the planet's frozen expanse stretching endlessly below like a vast white ocean. Mara kept her eyes on the sensors, aware that danger could appear at any moment. The alien child had grown more confident since the initial rescue. It moved around the small cabin with curiosity, tentatively touching panels, listening to the hum of the engines, and occasionally looking out the reinforced windows at the icy plains below. Its small hands were no longer trembling, and its reflective eyes shone with a mixture of awe and cautious trust. Mara watched it with a quiet pride. She had seen many survivors, human and alien, endure extreme conditions. But there was something extraordinary about this child. Despite its abandonment and the harshness of the environment, it had clung to life with determination that rivaled the most resilient humans. It was this spirit that reminded her why she had joined the rescue division: to save life, no matter how fragile, and to show that humanity's strength extended beyond its own species. The calm did not last. A sudden jolt shook the ship as a pulse from the nearby magnetic storms disrupted navigation systems. Mara's hands flew over the controls, stabilizing the engines and compensating for the turbulence. She glanced at the child, whose wide eyes followed the movements, a mixture of fear and fascination etched on its face. "It's okay," she said calmly. "We're fine. Just a little bump. Nothing to worry about." The alien seemed to absorb her calmness, leaning slightly closer as if the human's presence could shield it from the storm. Mara smiled, feeling a bond grow stronger with each passing moment. It was not just survival that connected them now. It was trust, respect, and an unspoken understanding that they were in this together. The storm worsened as they approached a canyon of ice cliffs, the jagged peaks slicing through the clouds. Mara's ship shuddered as turbulent winds pushed against its hull, and alarms rang softly in the cabin. She adjusted the shields and increased power to the engines, navigating the treacherous path with precision. Every decision mattered. One mistake could send the vessel crashing into the frozen peaks below. The alien clung to the edge of its bed, eyes wide, yet not crying. Mara's voice remained steady, guiding it. "Hold on, we're almost through. You're doing very well." It was a small reassurance, but it worked. The child relaxed just enough to let Mara take control, trusting her skill and judgment implicitly. Suddenly, the sensors picked up movement outside, fast, erratic, and closing in on the ship. Mara's heart rate quickened. A pack of creatures, native to the frozen planet, had detected the heat of the ship and were moving to investigate. These were predators adapted to survive extreme cold. Their speed, strength, and hunting instincts made them lethal. Mara's hand hovered over the controls, ready to activate defensive measures if necessary. "Stay close to me," she whispered to the alien, her tone firm but gentle. "We might have visitors." The child's body tensed, but it did not move away. It had learned, in these few hours, that Mara's skill and courage could be trusted. The predators struck, slamming against the shields with tremendous force. Mara adjusted the power distribution, strengthening the hull's defensive field and firing short bursts of non-lethal deterrence. The creatures howled in frustration, their icy claws scraping against the energy barrier. The alien watched silently, eyes wide with awe. It was seeing humanity's strength firsthand, not in brute force alone, but in strategy, intelligence, and calm decision-making under pressure. The ship swerved to avoid a sudden strike from one of the larger predators. Mara's hands flew over the controls, her mind calculating trajectories and shield capacity simultaneously. The child gasped softly, clinging closer. Mara glanced at it and offered a reassuring smile. "Almost done. We're better than they are at this." Her voice carried confidence, and the child's fear slowly gave way to understanding. Humans were protectors. They could face impossible odds and survive. Minutes felt like hours as the skirmish continued. Mara used every tool at her disposal, deploying energy pulses to deter the predators and using the ship's agility to stay out of reach. Finally, the last of the pack was forced back, retreating into the icy wilderness. Mara exhaled deeply, running a hand through her hair beneath the helmet. "That's it," she said. "We're clear." The alien, still gripping the blanket around its shoulders, looked up at her with something resembling admiration. It had survived the storm, the predators, and the frozen wasteland, but never before had it seen strength like this. Mara had shown not only skill but compassion. She had protected life, not destroyed it. That was a lesson the alien would not soon forget. The rest of the journey was calmer, though tension remained. Mara monitored systems closely, aware that the planet's extreme climate could create hazards at any moment. The alien rested, occasionally exploring the cabin and observing the instruments. Its movements were careful but deliberate, a sign of growing confidence. It had survived because of its own resilience and because of humanity's ability to protect and nurture. As they neared orbit, the research station appeared through the icy clouds, a shining beacon of safety and civilization. Mara's heart lifted. The station was equipped for life support, medical care, and shelter, everything the child would need to recover fully. She adjusted the ship's course for a smooth docking, ensuring the child would arrive without incident. When the ship finally landed in the station's docking bay, Mara gently lifted the alien from the bed. Its small body was still weak, but it held its head high, eyes bright with curiosity and trust. Station personnel rushed to assist, their expressions a mixture of surprise and admiration. At the tiny alien survivor, Mara introduced the child carefully, explaining its condition and the events that had led to its rescue. Despite the exhaustion, the alien explored the station under supervision. Mara guided it through warm corridors, showing it where food, water, and shelter could be found. The child's fascination was evident. Everything was new. Everything was alive with warmth, life, and light. For the first time, it experienced comfort not as a fleeting moment, but as a constant presence. Mara observed quietly, allowing the alien to acclimate. She knew that trust had been established, but bonds needed time to strengthen. The child's species was intelligent and emotionally perceptive, and she wanted to ensure it felt safe before any deeper lessons or care were introduced. She watched as it tentatively touched a screen, causing images of distant worlds and other species to light up. Its eyes widened, reflecting both wonder and a spark of recognition. This was a place where life could continue, where hope was no longer fragile. Night fell over the station, and Mara guided the alien to a small, comfortable room designed for recovery. Soft lights illuminated the space, and warm blankets awaited. She tucked it in gently, speaking softly. "You're safe now. You can rest. Tomorrow is a new day." The alien's small hands reached out to touch hers, a gesture of trust and gratitude. Mara felt a deep warmth in her chest, a recognition that she had not just saved a life, but also earned a companion and a friend. Hours passed in quiet reflection. Mara reviewed the mission logs, noting every hazard, every decision, and every act of courage that had ensured the aliens' survival. Humanity had the tools, the knowledge, and the courage to face the galaxy's challenges. More than that, it had the empathy to protect life, even when that life was small, abandoned, or alien. The alien stirred in its sleep, murmuring softly in its own language. Mara smiled. It was beginning to feel at home, beginning to understand that it had found a protector in a human. The journey had been long and perilous, but it had demonstrated what humans could do when faced with impossible odds. They could adapt, survive, and inspire trust even in the most hopeless situations. By morning, the alien's recovery had progressed further. It moved more freely, exploring its surroundings with growing confidence. Mara allowed it to interact with other station personnel, carefully guiding the process to ensure comfort and safety. The child learned quickly, absorbing lessons about warmth, nutrition, and the technology that humans use to survive in hostile environments. It was clear that this small life form possessed both intelligence and resilience, qualities that Mara knew would serve it well in the future. The bond between them deepened with each passing hour. The alien no longer flinched at her touch, no longer hesitated at human gestures, and began to respond with its own small gestures of trust. Mara marveled at its resilience, noting how even in its smallest actions, the alien demonstrated courage and intelligence. Humanity's ability to recognize and nurture these qualities had ensured that life had not just survived but was thriving. The day ended with Mara sitting beside the alien, monitoring vitals and adjusting temperature controls. Outside, Carrion 9 remained a frozen wasteland, a harsh reminder of the dangers they had overcome. Inside, warmth, care, and trust filled the room. The alien looked up at her, eyes reflecting understanding, gratitude, and a budding admiration. Mara reached out, holding its small hand. "We made it through," she said softly, "and we'll make it through whatever comes next." The alien squeezed her hand gently, a simple but profound gesture. It had faced abandonment, freezing storms, predators, and hunger. Yet it had survived. And now, under the protection and guidance of a human, it had a future where it could thrive, learn, and grow. Mara knew that the journey was not over, but she also knew that together, they could face anything. Humanity had once again shown that courage, intelligence, and compassion could conquer even the harshest environments. As night fell over the station, Mara looked out at the icy planet below. She thought about the countless lives at the mercy of harsh worlds, the abandoned, the forgotten, and the fragile, and she smiled quietly, knowing that one human act of courage could change the course of a life forever. The alien had survived, thrived, and begun to trust. And in that trust, Mara saw the very essence of humanity, the will to protect, to nurture, and to inspire hope where there was none. The alien child awoke to the warm glow of the station's lights. Outside, the planet Carrion 9 remained a frozen, inhospitable world. But inside the research station, life thrived. Soft hums of machinery, quiet footsteps of personnel, and the gentle beeps of monitors created an environment entirely different from the harsh, frozen wasteland it had known. The child blinked slowly, taking in the warmth and light. Its small body fully rested for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Mara was already nearby, checking the sensors and adjusting the temperature controls. She noticed the child's eyes following her movements. A soft smile formed on her face. "Good morning," she said gently. "Did you sleep well?" The child's ears twitched, a subtle response. But it was enough. It had begun to understand the human's voice, tone, and intention. In the small gestures, it could sense safety, care, and patience. Mara knelt down, extending her hand. "Come on. Let's get you some breakfast. You need your strength." The alien hesitated for only a moment before taking her hand. Mara helped it to a small table, setting out food and a nutrient solution. The child had learned quickly, guided by Mara's careful instructions, and now ate with growing confidence. Each bite strengthened its body and spirit, a visible sign of recovery. Mara watched closely, silently proud of the resilience she had helped nurture. After breakfast, Mara introduced the alien to some of the station's personnel. Scientists, engineers, and medics approached with curiosity and gentle smiles. The child observed them warily at first but quickly adapted, mirroring Mara's calm confidence. The warmth of the station and the careful guidance of humans made it clear that it had entered a world very different from the frozen wasteland of its abandonment. Here, life was protected, nurtured, and respected. Mara led the child to a small observation deck, where it could look out over the frozen plains below. The harsh landscape of Carrion 9 stretched endlessly, ice cliffs and snowfields reflecting the dim light of the distant sun. The child's small hands rested against the glass, and for the first time, it did not shiver. It had survived the planet's cruelty, but now, it could observe it safely. Mara stood beside it, her voice calm and reassuring. "You've come a long way. You're stronger than you know." The child looked up at her, its reflective eyes shining with recognition. Mara reached out, gently touching its shoulder. "I've seen how brave you are. You survived storms, predators, and isolation. That shows a strength even humans admire." The alien did not respond in words, but its gaze lingered, acknowledging the truth of her statement. It had faced everything alone, yet it had endured. And now, it had a protector, a guide, and a friend. Over the following days, Mara helped the child adapt to life on the station. She taught it to navigate the corridors, use basic equipment, and understand simple communication methods. The child learned quickly, its intelligence and curiosity evident in every action. It began to participate in small tasks, such as monitoring temperature controls, assisting with simple maintenance, and observing experiments. Mara allowed it to explore under supervision, knowing that confidence and trust would grow as the child discovered its own capabilities. During one session, the child noticed a monitor displaying a distant galaxy. Its eyes widened in wonder, and it reached toward the screen, pointing at the twinkling stars. Mara knelt beside it, explaining in simple terms what it was seeing. "Those are other worlds," she said. "Some are full of life, some are still waiting to be discovered. The galaxy is vast, and there's so much to learn." The child listened attentively, absorbing every word. For the first time, it realized that the universe held possibilities beyond mere survival. Opportunity, knowledge, and discovery awaited. One evening, Mara sat with the child near a small observation window. The lights of the station reflected softly on its fur, and the alien leaned against her, trusting and relaxed. "You've grown so much in just a few days," Mara said softly. "Not just in strength, but in courage and understanding. You've faced things most beings could never endure, and yet here you are." The alien made a small, contented sound, a gesture of acknowledgement that Mara understood perfectly. Their bond deepened further when the station received an alert. A minor structural issue had arisen in one of the outer corridors, a potential hazard that needed immediate attention. Mara prepared to investigate, and the child insisted on accompanying her, eager to help. Mara hesitated at first, aware of the risks, but then realized that the child's resilience and growing trust made it capable of learning from real experience. Together, they navigated the corridors, repairing the minor fault and ensuring the safety of the station. During this task, Mara saw the alien's ingenuity firsthand. It suggested simple solutions to small obstacles, using reasoning and observation rather than instinct alone. Mara was impressed. "You're quick to learn," she said. "You see solutions others might miss." The alien tilted its head, its reflective eyes shining with understanding. In that moment, Mara recognized not only survival skills but intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving, the qualities that made humans respected across the galaxy. As the days passed, the alien began to communicate more openly. Simple gestures became expressions of ideas, and eventually, words formed in the limited language it had learned from Mara. Every new word was a triumph, every interaction a testament to the power of trust and guidance. Mara encouraged this growth, understanding that communication was the key to a deeper connection and the alien's eventual independence. One day, while exploring the station's greenhouse, the child paused to observe the plants. It had never seen anything like them, life thriving in controlled warmth, safe from the harsh environment outside. Mara watched it quietly, noting the sense of wonder in its gaze. "This is what care can do," she said softly. "Life can grow when it's protected, nurtured, and given a chance. You've had that chance now." The alien's small hand touched a leaf, and a soft sound escaped it. A noise of fascination and joy. Weeks turned into months, and the alien flourished under Mara's guidance. Its body grew stronger, its mind sharper, and its understanding of the universe expanded. The bond between them was unbreakable. Mara realized that humanity's strength was not only in facing danger or surviving the impossible, but also in creating life, nurturing potential, and inspiring hope. She had saved the alien, but in return, it had shown her the true impact of compassion and guidance. The day came when Mara knew the child was ready to face the wider world beyond the station. Together, they prepared for a journey to other planets, where the alien could meet others of its kind and explore new opportunities. Mara provided tools, knowledge, and guidance, ensuring the child would be capable of surviving and thriving independently. The alien listened attentively, absorbing every instruction, every precaution, every piece of advice. Before departure, Mara knelt beside it, placing her hands gently on its small shoulders. "You've grown so much," she said. "You're ready to explore, to learn, and to show the galaxy what you're capable of. Remember what you've learned here. Strength comes from courage, intelligence, and trust. And never forget, you can always rely on the compassion of those who care." The alien's reflective eyes met hers, shining with understanding. It had faced abandonment, freezing storms, predators, and hunger. It had survived, grown, and learned to trust. And now, with Mara's guidance, it would step into the galaxy as a being capable of facing any challenge. As the small shuttle lifted off the station, heading toward new worlds, Mara watched from the observation deck. A sense of pride filled her. Humanity had once again proven its strength not only in survival and ingenuity, but in the ability to inspire, protect, and nurture life. The alien had survived because of its resilience, but it had thrived because of human courage, intelligence, and compassion. The child looked back at the station one last time, a small gesture of acknowledgement and gratitude toward the human who had saved its life. Mara smiled, knowing that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and wonders. But she also knew that humanity's impact could be profound. One act of courage, one choice to protect life, could change the course of destiny. In the days that followed, reports of the alien's survival and intelligence reached other stations. Scientists and explorers marveled at its resilience, intelligence, and adaptability. It became a symbol, not just of its species' potential, but of the humans who had nurtured and guided it. Humanity's reputation as protectors, healers, and problem solvers spread quietly but firmly throughout the galaxy. Mara continued her work, assisting others in exploring distant worlds, always carrying with her the memory of the frostbitten alien child she had rescued. She knew that the galaxy was full of life in need of protection, and that one human could make a difference. She had saved a life, nurtured hope, and strengthened trust between species. And in that act, she had demonstrated the essence of humanity: courage, intelligence, empathy, and the unwavering will to protect and inspire. The alien child, traveling to new worlds, would never forget the warmth, the safety, and the guidance it had received. Its life had been saved, yes, but it had also been transformed. Humanity had shown that even in the harshest conditions, life could not only survive but thrive. And in the alien's eyes, the human spirit shone brighter than any star in the galaxy. As Mara looked out at the stars from her own vessel, she reflected quietly on the journey. One life saved, one bond formed, one spark of hope ignited. Humanity had done more than survive in the galaxy. It had lifted another being from despair and given it a future. And that was the truest measure of strength,